Right there. Second shelf. I don't know which one you're going because I'm not moving.
You're going the wrong way.
I am?
I think so.
I'm going straight.
Oh, hit back.
Hit what?
Yes, that is everybody in first place.
Okay. Well,
Thank you, honey.
Yeah, I know.
Close the door, Ted.
After graduation, I'll do it for you.
Okay, then it's scanned. That's why I got a code for your Microsoft account. Okay.
And restoration. I hope you are staying healthy. We continue to respond to structural, fire, and water emergencies. We are combating COVID-19 with our highly trained staff and latest disinfection systems, providing preventative and reactive disinfection to facilities around the region, while working with area hospitals on isolation areas and air filtering. At Panhandle, we continue to follow social distancing and hygiene protocols. We are dedicated to our community, and together, we will get through this.
New Belgium Fat Tire Amber Ale is now available in West Virginia and distributed locally by wine and beverage merchants. With its toasty and biscuit-like malt flavors blended perfectly with hoppy freshness, it's bound to become one of your new favorite craft beers. Fat Tire Amber Ale is now available at local retailers. Please don't drink and drive and drink responsibly. From your friends at Wine and Beverage Merchants.
For all of your IT needs, visit OmniPerforms.com. Omni Strategic Technologies, the only IT company that the watchdog trusts.
Introducing our new redesigned 7 News app. Our new app features a sleek, modern design, an easy-to-navigate home screen with quick access to local news content and a localized weather forecast. Subscribing to notifications is easier, and with one tab, you have access to recent push notifications. There are more ways to watch and find video. To get the new WTRF 7 News app, just update the latest version or download the WTRF 7 News app in your Apple or Google Play Store by searching WTRF.
Save big money with 11% off everything now at Menards, your home improvement store. The 6-inch new construction recessed housing makes installing recessed lights safe and simple. It features airtight construction with built-in push-in connectors for easy wiring. All Lithonia lighting, utility, recessed housings, and trims are 11% off now at Menards. Good through August 21st. Savings are mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
Hello, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm the Storm Tracker, Darnell Foster. With a look at your local weather forecast for your Tuesday. Times of clouds and sunshine with a few scattered thunderstorms. Daytime highs in the mid-70s. Overnight low down to about 65 degrees. Mostly cloudy with showers through the overnight. Showers on and off through your Wednesday. Otherwise mostly cloudy. Temperatures near 78 degrees. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
Today is a very special day.
Why is today a special day?
Today is special because it is National Black Cat Appreciation Day.
Aren't they bad luck, right?
No, they aren't bad.
Your black cat is crossing my path.
People do have superstitions about black cats.
Today is National Black Cat Appreciation Day.
A cat. He is one hep black cat.
Cat chat.
Showtime!
Celebrating the 100 days of summer, this is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe.
Well, it's 72 degrees and raining at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. 73 and cloudy here at my home studio. 73 at the Robinson Auto Group Studios. Downtown Wheeling in the heart of the Ohio Valley is going to be a dark, dreary, muggy, rainy day all day today and indeed almost all week long. I'll look for some rain showers, thunderstorms even possible during the morning hours today. Then they'll go away for a while, come back this afternoon. So expect it to be rainy, muggy all day long as well. Not that miserable high heat we had last week, but with the mugginess, it's going to feel miserable anyways. 76, the predicted high. As I mentioned, we're almost there now. 72 and rain at the airport, 73 here at the home studios in the Elm Grove section of Wheeling. Where have we been and where are we going today? President Biden defended his timetable for pulling troops out of Afghanistan yesterday as the scramble to evacuate continues. And we were talking with Tom Scudieri, our national correspondent and Pentagon reporter, about how we got here and what happens next in Afghanistan. Governor Justice continues his dire warnings about the rising COVID numbers, but also continues his decision to take no mandatory actions, as he says he's trying to placate the anti-vaxxers and the anti-maskers. And I ask the question, why? The Biden administration is reportedly ready to recommend that we all should get a booster shot after our 8 months. It's not official yet, but likely to come down as a recommendation sometime today or later this week. So we'll talk about that. A shale industry publication says it doubts the Eastern Ohio cracker plant will ever be built. I want to share some of the reporting with you a little bit later on this morning. And continuing population loss in the Mountain State concerns Governor Justice, and we'll see what the Wheeling's mayor has to say about that as well. That's all part of what's coming up here on the Watchdog Morning Show. It is 9:12 in the morning. We all know West Virginia recorded the largest loss in population in this country, population-wise, when the census numbers came out last week. Almost all, I don't think every county, but almost all of our counties lost population. Some did increase. Monongalia County saw an increase. Berkeley County, a couple of others saw an increase, but most saw a decrease. The governor calls it a real problem, quote, a real problem. City of Wheeling has seen population go down for, let's be honest about it, decades after decades. And I thought we'd talk about that with Wheeling Mayor Glenn Elliott. Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning, Mr. Monroe.
You acknowledge that we're losing population, but with the optimism that we all come to expect from you, you see some some glimmers of hope inside this, right?
I'll be the first to confess to occasionally suffering from optimism, but Howard, if you look at the numbers, people tend to think Wheeling, back in the 50s, everything was great, but Wheeling was losing population then. Howard, really going back, in our official census count, we've been losing population since the 1930s. But as I pointed out in talking to the newspaper the other day, in the 1920s, the city significantly expanded its footprint to include Warwood, to include, Elm Grove and parts of Woodsdale. So that annexation actually led to population growth. But really, if you look at the core of the city at the time, the population went down. So really, it's been 100 years of population loss. And that is what it is, and that's something to talk about. That's nothing to celebrate. But within those losses, you can look at trend lines. And what I see is that our population loss really reached a high point in the 1980s and 1990s. I think we lost 19% of our population from 1980 to 1990. And then from 90 to 2000, we lost another 12 or 10% or something like that. But those are big and substantial losses. And a lot of those losses were young people leaving because a lot of the local businesses were shutting down and there weren't opportunities here. If you look at what we're seeing now, we lost 5% in the last decade. That's bad, but I think a lot of it is just a carryover from the fact that when you see all the young people leave in prior decades, you're going to be left with an older population, which we have. We have statistically a population that's almost 10 years older than the national average. That's going to mean you have fewer people having babies, having kids here, and more people who, quite frankly, it's sad to think about, but more people passing away on a yearly basis because you have an older population. That takes time to level itself out, and I think 10 years from now, I think we'll see numbers either leveled off or actually going back up because we will have fixed that sort of imbalance we have based on the national average.
What do you think? I mean, so if we're slowing down a bit, is what you're saying, right? I mean, we're still decreasing population, but slowing down.
Yeah.
What's why? I mean, let's delve into this a bit more. What's causing a slower loss of population in Wheeling, and slower than other parts of the state too, for that matter? Yeah,
I'll be honest. It's hard to get actual hard data on this. So a lot of what I have here is anecdotal, and like there are all obvious dangers in relying too much on anecdotes. But Howard, I graduated high school in 1990. At the time, all of my friends, everyone was being urged, leave Wheeling to look for opportunities elsewhere. If you didn't have a family business, if you didn't want to work in one of the still open steel mills at the time, that was the advice you were given, and a lot of people left. I talk to young kids now all the time. I speak up at Wheeling Park once a year to some classes up there. I speak to students, and it really seems like young people see more of a future here now than maybe we did in my generation when so many of us just didn't see those opportunities here. Obviously, we have a lot of work to do. We still don't have all the quality of life boxes checked, but I do think you're seeing, in terms of population out-migration, in terms of people graduating high school and just saying, I'm out of here, I think those numbers are going down a lot. And I also think you're seeing, and I know this from my own experience, you're seeing people who are moving back to the area. Just among my own friends, I can think of 15, 20 people in the last 5 or 6 years who've moved back to Wheeling, some of whom who had left, 20 years before. So I do think, we have stemmed the tide on the out-migration that was such a problem early on, but we're still a little bit older than the national average, so we're still going to see more deaths than births on an average basis, but I think those numbers are going to be going down, and I do think going forward, you will start to see more births and the population leveling off a little bit. And that's what we have to focus on, because Wheeling was built, Wheeling, like the Wheeling we all think of, was built when it was growing. And most of the buildings still standing in downtown were built up until the 1920s, and then it just kind of stopped. We stopped expanding. We have to turn that around to continue to grow here in the future. But I think the trend lines are great, but again, it's hard to get the actual hard data. You'd have to go out and do an expensive survey to find out. But I think if you ask around, if you talk to people, the idea that you need to leave Wheeling to find an opportunity is no longer set in people's minds the way that really was about 20 or 30 years ago.
I'm going to challenge a little bit of that, but I basically agree with your premise. I'm still not sure that you see people, young people, and you probably talk to younger people than I do, because you're younger than I am. I don't know that young people are able to find the kind of jobs they want here to start with, but I completely concur with you, and I can speak from personal experience as well. The large number of people that I know who couldn't start their career here left, got going, and then felt they could come back here with that experience behind them. In some cases, actually starting their own business, or in other cases, just coming back here, stepping into I don't know, what do you want to call it, middle level career or something. They were able to not start here, but they would have come back here. And I think it's the quality of life that does attract them back here. So I would concur with you. I think it's anecdotal. I'm with you. But I know a lot of people that have made those kind of decisions.
Yeah. And one thing that's a little bit different, and this is, it was surprising to me, but I've talked to enough young people where I think there's some truth to it. Of course, you read the same, but I've actually asked people this. My generation, Owen said, I'm going to be 50 this year. So when we were young, everyone encouraged you to go where the jobs were. That was it was the end of the 1980s. It was all about jobs, and make as much money as you can. You talk to younger people today, obviously they still want to make money. They still want to have success. But more and more younger people are choosing where they want to live first based on a variety of factors, and quality of life is top amongst them. And then after that, they're going to look for the job. So, since I've been in office, we have focused very much on quality of life features, because I think that's how we're going to compete to bring those young people here. So it's just a different mindset. And the other thing, and this was exacerbated a little bit by the pandemic, is, you can work, jobs are more flexible in terms of where you can work now than they were in 1980, 1990. So you can work in Wheeling, and I know at least a dozen people personally who work in Wheeling, but their jobs are based somewhere else. That's a great opportunity for a city like Wheeling, where you have low cost of living. If you can live here and enjoy all the benefits we have and the low cost of housing and living here, and get a salary based on San Francisco, New York, DC wages or whatever, that's a good win for you. So I think it's a little bit different than it used to be. I can speak to my generation, but everyone was out to go out. I go out and get the highest paid job you can wherever it was, and that was your driving force, whatever. And I'm not saying it was everybody was that way, but that certainly was the mindset for a lot of us. I think it's different now. I think young people want to be in a place where they can make a difference, where they can matter. I think being relevant is far more important than having this highest paying job somewhere where you're in some big city working in the rat race. I don't think that's as attractive as it may have been.
Well, I often use as an example my own daughter-in-law, and my son and daughter-in-law, both who lived in D.C. for years, 2-hour commutes, big, high-paying jobs. I mean, they had a great life. But especially when my grandson was born, they said, "No, we want to get back home to a better quality of life, a slower pace. I don't want to spend 2 hours in the car. I want to spend 2 hours with my grandson or with my son." In the case of my daughter-in-law, she just kept her DC job, DC wages, DC work, and just does it from her office at home. So I just use that often as an example. I look at it every day, and I know that it can happen. It is interesting, and I think the pandemic did make a big difference. Before the pandemic, I knew a handful of people here in the local area who did that remote kind of work. But it seems to me that those numbers have grown a good bit, just even in the past year. Once businesses and employers begin to recognize that, nothing really wrong with people working remotely. So I think that's a good thing. I don't know, though. Does it turn our population loss around, Mr. Mayor?
Hey, look, like I said in the newspaper story, I have no way of projecting the future. If you follow the trend lines going back to 1980 and all the way up to today, it looks like we're at a point where we are going to level off by 2030 and actually see some growth. But the work is far from done on the quality of life side. We've done a pretty good job, I think, changing that conversation. The Wheeling of today it does offer a lot of things the young people want to see, but we have to do more. I think one area where we're a little bit deficient is in terms of things to do for families with children, especially like teenage children, before they can go. And Wheeling, once you turn 21, there's a lot of things you could do. But for those kids, 16 to 20 or whatever, I think we have a gap there, stuff like that. We have to figure out more for those folks to do. But at the same time, you mentioned something on your show the other day, and I've been meaning to follow up about it, referencing the Harry Ham plan back from the 80s about, making Wheeling a retirement community. And that's something that I've always thought that Wheeling is a great place to retire to as well, especially if you've earned your living in a higher wage area and you saved up a lot of money. You can come back home and live quite comfortably here as well. And, I think, obviously, our city council, a lot of what we say and talk about is attracting young folks here, but at the same time, we're always looking at ways to attract anybody here. And if you want to retire here, I think Wheeling's a great place to retire to. I can think of several folks just right now who just retired and moved back to the area and are doing great things. One of the women who we honored at the State of the City, Ellen Gano, is leading Volunteer Wheeling. She retired from a job in the federal government, moved back home, and set up Volunteer Wheeling. But there are folks doing these things. Coming back to Wheeling, I realized, I was born here, I left, but I'm coming back, and I'm living this rich life here, and it's not. I think the pandemic is actually helping in some perverse way in that it's making cities like Wheeling much more attractive than living in places where you're on top of everybody else. Mm-hmm. And I think, look, I am an optimist, and I'll be the first to confess that. I think if you look at the trend lines, I think if you start seeing more investment, we've seen a lot of investment here in Wheeling in the last few years. You look at a group like Roxby Development, which has taken on projects like the Monastery, like the Scottish Rite, and now they took on the Core Hotel. Like they have brought, I've met their workforce. There's about 20 or so workers who are Wheeling expats who are now back in Wheeling working here for that company. They probably otherwise would not be here. So we need more things like that to happen. Bringing youth here and keeping the population. People who grew up here are always going to have a part of them that loves Wheeling, and we can attract that population, but we just have to, make sure we check the boxes.
Well, you talked about in your State of the City speech, and we haven't done our usual follow-up to that this year, but sure. You talked a lot about the amount of private investment we are beginning to see in the city of Wheeling. Some big, some small, some people just making some minor cosmetic improvements, some people building new structures and making some huge improvements. It does seem to me, I think you've properly, seen this perspective, that private industry, private businesses, they must be feeling more optimistic about the city's future because we are seeing more private investment in the city.
Without a doubt, that is the best way to predict the future is to look at what business people are doing with their money. Now, obviously, there's some folks who may be investing in the properties just out of pride or trying to give back to their community. But by and large, business people make decisions based on what is in their business interest to do so. And when you see people investing in properties here, when you see projects like Wheeling Pit taking off, and someone investing a lot of private money here. When you see these projects, when you see what the Carl family has done at the Bridge Tavern there, these are smart business people, but they've made a decision to invest here. That to me tells me that people have actually run the numbers, done the math, and said, you know what, Wheeling's a pretty good investment right now, and that's what's been missing for a lot of this. Going back 100 years, like I said, there hasn't been a lot of new buildings built since the 1920s here in Wheeling. We've got a handful, but most of the great buildings we have are all 1880 to 1920, and that's when our population was still growing dramatically. I think the two are tied together. Private investment is going to follow the numbers, and our population is going to follow the private investment. It is a little bit of chicken and egg. But I'm excited about where we are right now. Obviously, like I said, we have a lot of work to keep doing. We have to clean up a lot of the missing pieces right now. We have to get the streetscape project done, which I know everyone's tired of hearing about. But that's a very visual component of. It's a vivid and visual reflection of where our city is and how we look. So we have to get things like that done. But I'm encouraged by the private investment, and there's several other investments out there which aren't quite public yet, but I think people will be excited to hear about more things coming. So, our work is never going to be done, and there's always going to be work for city councils to focus on. But I'm encouraged by where we are, and I actually, when I read those numbers. Every year the newspaper calls me census numbers come out, and every year I'm expected to give a quote. I felt good about the numbers that we saw last week because I really feel like those trend lines are pointing in the right direction.
Every year when the census numbers come out and everybody wrings their hands about it, I often suggest that let's not worry so much about the numbers and let's just worry about the people. Are we satisfying the people who are here? Are we doing the right thing for the people that we have? And if we are, it will probably then bring more people in. I do think, and I remember the media, we're all guilty. Census numbers come out. Let's see what the population loss is. I've often thought we wring our hands too much at the numbers and not enough at the people. Take a look at the people. Take a look at what's happening in the city or anywhere around the Ohio Valley or around the state or wherever.
Well, I talk to a lot of people, Howard. And one thing about the position I'm in is people are rarely shy about sharing their feelings on things with me. And obviously, you get people who are upset about this or that, and the condition of streets, in particular downtown streets, is a common complaint we get. But there are a lot of people who, in the past couple of years, come up to us on council and say, "I'm really encouraged by this. I'm encouraged by that. Wheeling's such a great place to live. Keep doing what you're doing." So I think we're doing a pretty good job for a local population here. I think people are happy with the trend lines we're seeing. We obviously we have to complete a lot of the there's a lot of stuff in motion right now we have to see through to completion. We have to continue pushing that needle forward. But I'm encouraged by where we are. You look up and down this valley, I think we're in a very good position regionally. I think West Virginia is a part of the country overall that's been ignored for a while. I think West Virginia I know that West Virginia as a whole is getting outside attention in a way that maybe hasn't in prior years. I think the whole state suffers from the same thing we do, so much out migration over the years. But I think you're going to see that change. And I think nature abhors a vacuum. So for so many years when people move towards the coast, I think that's going to push people back and look at places like West Virginia and Wheeling as a place to move to. And, we just have to continue making sure that when people come here, when they visit, that we make a really good first impression. And, we got to get working on, things like gateways, working on things like just cleaning up dilapidated properties. There's a lot of things we have to do to make the city come off better for first impressions. But I think it's looking better now than it was 10 years ago, in terms of our downtown footprint for sure. Once the interstates are done, that's going to be a much better reflection. For how many years did people come across the bridge on I-70 and start dodging and weaving potholes all the way out to Elm Grove on every bridge? That's going to be a much better look for us, and we just got to keep moving on that regard.
And it's difficult for all of us, including me, and so I vent often here on the radio. It's difficult for all of us to have patience. The I-70 project is a good example. We knew going in it was going to be 3 years of, I won't call it misery, but 3 years of just wasn't going to be pleasant. We knew that going in, but in the end, we'll have a properly improved interstate that will make it a lot better for us. Same thing with the downtown Wheeling. There's nobody who bitches more about the Market Street and Main Street than I do, But
I'm not sure how
I do know streetscape is coming, and I also know that a lot of the work that's being done is to prepare for that with, the water lines, sewer lines, and so on. And it's hard to have that patience, but in the end, things will get better.
Well, things will definitely get better. And, one thing I do want to say, one thing quick, I know we got to go here, is just on the I-70 work, it took me a while to adjust. If I wanted to get out to Elm Grove or something from downtown, I had to go up over Wheeling Hill, and, that took me a while to get used to that mentally. Now I do it just almost reflexively. I just started driving that way. But it's kind of made me rediscover some stops, some shops, and stop at different places that otherwise I may forget about sometimes. Because one of the downsides of the interstate is that it takes vehicles away from commerce. So if you're driving through a city at 60 miles an hour, you're not going to stop and see things you might want to stop and spend money at. So one of the upsides of all this traffic is it's made me kind of slow down a little bit the way I drive and look around a little bit more, notice things I might otherwise not notice. So I think I commend the state and the contractor on this project, because I think that the disruptions, while they've been annoying, I don't think they've been anywhere near as catastrophic as folks thought they would be. And I'm actually, I'm not as frustrated with that project as some people are. I think it's actually not been that bad of a thing, and it's been kind of nice just to slow down a little bit and take a little different perspective on the city when I drive about.
Yeah, I actually can't disagree with you. And I first of all, I do want to say that I think it's been a whole lot less of a hassle than we ever anticipated. And again, I was among the flag wavers going on. But oh my God, what a disaster it's going to be. But it didn't turn out to be nearly as bad. Now you're going over Wheeling Hill and down to Fulton at 3:00 in the afternoon.
It could be a little bit of a, But at the same time, Wheeling in the 1950s didn't have the interstate, and we had a population almost twice what we have now. And people seem to recall that as a good period of time in Wheeling. So maybe there were fewer cars on the road and fewer trucks, but there certainly were not interstates then. And so I think it's been good for us as a community just to realize that the interstate is a great asset to have, but we don't need it, and we can get around otherwise. And maybe it takes us an extra 5 minutes to get where we want to go, but sometimes stopping and smelling the roses is not the worst thing.
I've been reading a couple of books about the construction of the interstate highway. I remember when it came through Wheeling and took some of the houses that I grew up in and so on, and the big changes it brought about. But I've been reading about how many towns thought it would be a great thing to have an interstate and then realized that what it meant was traffic was going to pass them by. And I wonder, just thinking out loud as you're talking here, Mr. Mayor, if when this project isn't over, if we ought to start thinking about some kind of signage or directional things suggesting that people, when I'm traveling on 79 or 70, I guess, like over towards DC, there's an area where it says Scenic Route 40, you can get off here,
Yes.
Maybe we ought to think about some signage that says, you can speed right through, but maybe you just like to get off here and take a slower route. I don't know how you put a sign up for that, but I'm just thinking about that as you're talking about it. It's a great point you make, that we can slow down, take it easy, see some places. I think that's got value to it.
It's certainly something we could look at. I know the state is in general very reluctant to put more signage on the I-70 eastbound because there's all sorts of regulations about how many signs you can have per square mile or whatever, and there's a lot of signs there already. But maybe a little scenic route or something is not a bad idea. And just real quick before we go, you mentioned some family members losing properties. Both of my sets of grandparents lost their home in Elm Grove with that road, and for them it was always like a very personal thing, and they never on my father's side. I knew my grandfather was an old man, but what I was told from my father is that he and my grandmother would put everything they had into their house. They lost their house. It was on, I believe, Simpson Avenue out there, right near where the Pizza Hut is now. And I was told my grandfather was never the same after the state took his house for that road. He never really fully recovered his cheer or whatever, which I guess he had as a young man, and I just saw an old grumpy man, but I guess that was partly why. So it's kind of it's a personal story too, because a lot of people lost their homes during that process.
And the Elm Grove was such a vibrant community before that, and it's redeveloping itself now. But I mean, when I was a kid growing up in Elm Grove before the interstate, it was, it was a true community in and of itself, and then the interstate came through and again, that's not unusual. That's been true all across the country. At any rate, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate it. Thanks for your time today. Some good conversation. I thought we ought to talk about some of the positive stuff, since I usually have negative things to say.
Absolutely, Howard. My pleasure. Anytime.
All right, thanks, sir. I appreciate it. Wheeling Mayor Glenn Elliott this morning here on the Watchdog Morning Show talking about population loss, and the mayor says, yeah, we're losing population. It's a slower rate than it was before, and I think and I have to say, I agree with the mayor. I have a lot of times I have, specific criticisms of things they do. Can you say the two-way streets? But in general, I think that this current council and the previous council under Mayor Elliott have really focused on a lot of things that hadn't been focused on before. You look at the huge increase in playgrounds, the improvement in playgrounds, which is important to communities, I think. Some of the most money we all get just drive crazy. If you and I and everybody who drives downtown wants to scream every time we go bouncing down Main Street or Market Street and we see the orange barrels, and every day I go, wonder which side of the road they'll be on today. But the city has also put a significant amount of money into paving other streets in the neighborhoods. $1 million this year. I think $1 million last year. Could be wrong about that. They're talking about another 500,000 could be coming down the pike. So they're working on it. And again, we also have to just have patience. It's hard for me to do, and that's why I come on the show and I complain a lot driving through downtown Wheeling, because there's the streets are just in bad shape. They got water lines they're working on, and sewer lines they're working on, and power lines they're working on, and sometimes they flood buildings.
Yeah, you'll have that.
But you just gotta keep focused on it. Will be better in the end. Only trouble is, Biffy, at my age, you hope you're around for the end.
Yeah, there is that as well.
How much longer can I wait for the end? All right, let's check some headlines for you. Metro News is here. Got Billy D's got morning sports, and we'll glide on into Hoppy at 10. Before that, we'll talk to Brenda or Bob from the Big 7 and putting the kibosh half hour on this Tuesday edition of the Watchdog Morning Show.
The Metro News Update is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
One.
Been saddened to watch. Thousands of American troops with West Virginia ties spent time in Afghanistan during the last 2 decades. State Senator Ryan Weld was on active duty there for 10 months. He's thinking about the 15 West Virginians who died there.
I think for a lot of people who were there just trying to take it all in and what does it mean?
President Biden says he does not regret the decision to pull out American troops on a date specific. I'm Jeff Jenkins, WV, MetroNews.com.
Governor Jim Justice is continuing his wait-and-see approach as COVID cases continue to soar in West Virginia. The governor says he will not reissue a mask mandate because he's trying to keep the state unified. The state DHHR says active cases are just under 6,000. Fayette County school officials are confirming 5 positive cases of COVID in the school system as students head back to class this second day of school. Officials say they're conducting contact tracing and sanitation in schools. All students and staff are required to wear a face mask. You're listening to Metro News, the voice of West Virginia. The state is bracing for heavy rainfall as the remnants of Tropical Storm Fred move through the mountain state. National Weather Service meteorologist Simone Lewis has this message for drivers.
Even though we're not expecting any sort of widespread flooding issues, if folks are out traveling, to be aware that, low-lying spots certainly could become flooded and not to drive your vehicle through them.
2 to 4 inches of rain is expected to fall across the mountainous terrain. From the Metro News Anchor Desk, I'm Carrie Hudasek.
In Los Angeles, the Dodgers edged the Pirates 2-1 on home runs by Max Muncy and Billy McKinney. Let's hear from Pirates skipper Derek Shelton.
Yeah, we just missed locations with fastballs, and we did a good job keeping a really good lineup off balance all day long, and then we ended up missing in the middle of the plate, missed location both times, and that ended up being the difference in the game.
By the way, in the loss to L.A., the Pirates stranded 10 runners. The Dodgers, they love beating up against the Pirates. They have won 14 in a row over Pittsburgh, 11 in a row at home. Since 2017, the two teams have played 23 games. L.A., 20-2 against the Buccos. Ouch. Well, NBC Sports Chicago is reporting today that the Cincinnati Reds and the Chicago Cubs will play in the 2022 Field of Dreams game in Iowa. A Steeler note, newly acquired linebacker, former Cleveland Brown linebacker Joe Schobert, is taking first-team reps during Pittsburgh Steelers training camp. Let's hear from his head coach, Mike Tomlin.
We're just trying to teach as much as we can, and the best way to teach is get them in competitive situations.
Saturday, the Pittsburgh Steelers will host the Detroit Lions in a preseason game. My guest coming up in the 12:35 segment of the variety show, Sean Gibson. You may have heard of his great-grandfather, Josh Gibson. I'm Bill DeFabio on sports and we are the watchdog.
The Variety Show with Bill DeFabio is live on the Watchdog Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. We talk to some of the region's best business owners while keeping you informed about area events and happenings. You won't believe who I have on next. Tune in and get with the program. Guests from preachers to pros and even some Super Bowl champions. Join me, Bill DeFabio, from noon to 2 for The Variety Show on the Watchdog.
You took the first step and quit smoking, but even former smokers may still be at risk for lung cancer. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know about a new low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer. .org for a simple quiz to see if you're eligible and talk to your doctor about screening. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Who wants craft beer? Saturday, August 21st, the Mountaineer Brewfest is back at Wheeling Heritage Port, showcasing craft beers from West Virginia's finest brewers. With great food, live entertainment, and many more craft beer selections in our beer garden, it's a wild and wonderful time, and you don't want to miss out. Proceeds benefit a Special Wish Foundation. Get your tickets now at MountaineerBrewfest.com. Brought to you by Wheeling Island Hotel, Casino, Racetrack, and the UPS Store.
America's infrastructure connects our communities and makes our nation work. These systems are vital to our everyday lives and Ohio's economy. That's why Senator Rob Portman led the way in passing legislation that makes critical investments in Ohio's roads, bridges, and electricity systems. Critical investments in the infrastructure that makes America and Ohio great. Here's Senator Portman on C-SPAN.
Because it is landmark and needed legislation in fixing our nation's roads, bridges, railroads, our ports, our waterways, our electrical grid, our broadband network, and more. It will be a lasting bipartisan achievement to help the people we represent.
Repairing our roads and bridges, upgrading electrical systems, and increasing access to information systems is good for our families, good for America, and good for our future. Thank you, Senator Portman, for leading the way on a real infrastructure plan that rebuilds America and invests in Ohio. Thank you for voting to invest in us. Learn more at let'sinvestinus.com. Paid for by Citizens for Responsible Energy Solutions.
If you missed us the first time, keep going. You'll find us just down the dial. AM 1600 and 1370, FM 98.1 and 97.7. We are the Watchdog.
As county school systems in West Virginia return to the classrooms, athletes will be returning to the field. And once again, Metro News will be there to keep you informed. Fred Persinger, Dave Jecklin, and Joe Bricato are geared up and ready for another exciting season of the High School Sports Line. Get the latest scores and news along with player and coach interviews. Wednesday nights at 7:06. The High School Sports Line starts August 25th on this Metro News station and online at wvmetronews.com.
Watch out! He could climb on his soapbox at any time. The Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe continues.
I think I did a couple times this morning. I wasn't even planning to, but I think I did climb up on the soapbox a couple of times. I caught myself, but I think I was ranting and railing a little bit earlier this morning. 73 degrees, Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. Raining there, 72 degrees and cloudy here at my home studios. 72 at the Robinson Auto Group Studios, downtown Wheeling. Heart of the Ohio Valley. It's going to be dark, dreary, rainy, muggy all day long, all week long. Live with it, all right? 13 to the hour here on the Watchdog Morning Show. Yesterday afternoon, for some reason, I got thinking about the group West Virginia Can't Wait. It was the group that Stephen Smith formed when he was running for the nomination. Well, running for the nomination for West Virginia's governor. It was kind of, in my mind, sort of a parallel group to the Democratic Party. It was a more progressive type group. They had set up their own guidelines for people who could be in it. Some Republicans joined into the West Virginia Can't Wait movement as well. But I got wondering yesterday. I got thinking to myself, what are they up to? What are they doing? Interesting enough, purely by coincidence, or maybe I thought them into existence, I get a note today from Stephen Smith that later today, West Virginia Can't Wait will be launching a new campaign, Biff. You know what it's called?
What's that?
Replace Joe Manchin.
Oh, okay.
Okie dokie. In recent weeks, this is what they're saying. The national press has called Joe Manchin a kingmaker, the most valuable Democrat, the king of the Senate. Today, a bipartisan coalition of West Virginia voters are calling for his ouster. West Virginia Can't Wait has launched a website, replacejoemanchin.com, to raise money to replace Senator Manchin and his statewide political machine, they say. Manchin's network of corporate lawyers, financiers, coal and gas executives, lobbyists, and party bosses will not be defeated in one election or one race, they say, but they're going to start now trying to replace Joe Manchin. Let's see if I can get Stephen to come on to talk about this tomorrow in some more depth and in detail. You'll probably hear more about it throughout the day today on Metro News and maybe WTRF and elsewhere, since they're having, I guess they're having a press conference on this today. But West Virginia Can't Wait movement is raising money to challenge, quote, the Manchin machine in 2022, 2024, and beyond. And I don't know if it's active yet, but the website will be replacejoemanchin.com. I think it's a fool's errand. Joe Manchin, for better or ill, and I think we're better off with Joe Manchin without him. I know, I get it. I'm going to hear from my very progressive friends. Some of my own family members are going to tell me I'm all washed up on this, but I think it makes some sense to acknowledge that Joe Manchin and, quote, the Manchin machine is about the only machine we've got left in the state for Democrats. And when push came to shove in the last election, we had Stephen Smith and Ben Salango, and Salango won. The moderate centrist won, so I don't know. But apparently, according to this info I got from Stephen Smith this morning, later today, they will officially announce the West Virginia Can't Wait movement, replacejoemanchin.com, which is their kickoff to an effort to get Manchin out of office. We'll talk more about it later on. Let's see what they're working on over the Big 7 this morning at WTRF TV. Bob Westfall is here. Good morning, Bob.
Morning, Howard. How are you?
Hey, I'm getting ready when I'm done talking to you and turn things over to Hoppy Kirchwell. I'm getting ready to do my morning exercises. Because, well, my grandson is here, and he's got his video games here. And we had a story earlier this morning that apparently a new report is out that says 2 hours of video games is as good for you as 1,000 sit-ups.
Really?
So I'm going to do 1,000 sit-ups when I get off the air.
When you said exercise, I thought you were going someplace to eat.
Well, I'll probably eat first, then I'll do my 1,000 sit-ups in the form of 2 hours of playing video games.
That's good.
Hey, listen, if video games can help you lose weight, man, I should be doing it good because I'm playing all the time with my grandson. Jeez.
Yeah, I was going to say I got to check in because I think I got a PlayStation 1 somewhere in the house. But
I said earlier, I don't know if Pong counts or not. That was my video game.
I wish I had Pong. My dad had the Atari, and he gave it away for like $20.
Yeah, well, it's worth a lot these days. And
yeah,
I love Pong. Pong, 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 Pong. At the time, it seemed very exciting. What are you working on today, Bob?
All right, working on a few things. Aaron Myler's got a story on fake vaccination cards. We know those are popping up across the country. We talked to the U.S. Attorney's Office about what penalties somebody might face if they are caught. Basically, it's something along the same lines as trying to present a fake driver's license. So we will have the situation on that. Again, talk to
Bob, I know that's a great story, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you have to say. Don't you have to ask yourself the question, why bother to commit a crime, a fake vaccination card, when all you have to do is walk into the health department and actually get a vaccination?
I can't answer. I mean, that I think that comes down to individual individual preference and whether they want to get the vaccination or not.
I just, why? If you don't want to get it, well, I don't know. I'll look forward to your story nonetheless. Sounds interesting to me.
I'm sure Aaron's going to do a great job on it, right, Aaron?
Yep.
Okay, there we go.
Pretty usual.
All right. Also today, Stephen Billingsley from Richmond will be in federal court. He is, I guess I would say, the most local man charged with entering the Capitol building on January 6th. He is to be in court today at 10 o'clock, as a matter of fact, so we'll have details on that, see where that's going to go. Excuse me. Stephen from Richmond, Ohio is the most local person involved in that, in the insurrection. So we'll have that. Of course, to this week's Veterans Voices, talked to a former Air Corps man, spent a lot of time, actually re-upped a couple times. So I would say he's probably been in a couple harrowing situations from his conversations. So we'll have that today as well. Of course, Dr. Dave and Zach today will be watching the weather. We look like we're going to get some remnants of Fred next couple of days. A little bit of rain today, probably maybe a little bit more tomorrow. So we'll have that. And our great high school football previews continue, with today being Shadyside, Bel Air, and Martin Sherry.
Sounds like some good stuff all coming up today at noon, 5, 6, 10, 11, 5:30 for the statewide show with Mark Curtis. And most importantly, always at WTRF.com, where the news comes first and we get it right there. As soon as you get it, we get it. And if you're smart like me, you have your alerts set so that when new stories pop up on your website, they pop up on my phone and tell me, go read the website. That's what people should do.
And you know, Howard, when I think of smart, the first thing I think is Howard Monroe.
Just remember, you can exercise by playing video games now, and remember who told you that. When you don't have to do sit-ups anymore, Bob, remember I told you. Just video games, all you got to do.
I'm going home, find me a video game. I don't have any in the house anymore.
Well, you need to get some.
Yeah, I guess.
I'd tell you to go to Blockbuster and rent them, but I guess that would show my age, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that sure would.
All right. Welcome back, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow. Thanks a lot, Bob. Appreciate it.
I'll talk to you Thursday.
Talk to you Thursday. You're right. Thanks a lot.
All right. Bye, guys.
All right. Bob Westfall from the Big 7, WTRF TV, here on the Watchdog Morning Show. 9:55, 5 before the air. Yeah, Biff, when I get off the air, I'm going to go out and I don't know if I have any sausage, gravy, and biscuits left. I had some yesterday. I think I might have some left for today. I'm not sure. So I'll have a little breakfast. And I'm going to start exercising, pal. I'm going to get out there and start exercising. Teddy's got the video game all set up, and it's all ready to go. He's exercising right now in the other room, so I'm going to go in there and exercise. And this kid, you may have heard Biffy off the air if you're listening. I don't know. When he came in, he knows how to check Amazon for deliveries. He'd asked me, he wanted this new video game, Luigi's Mansion 3. Granddaddy will get it for you. His mother said, oh, come on, you don't have to give him everything he wants. And I said, yeah, pretty much I do. Yeah, pretty much I do. So I ordered for him. First thing he did, he came into the office during the 9 o'clock news break and said, Granddad, what time will Luigi's Mansion 3 be here today? I don't know. He already had sussed out the fact that it was set for delivery for today. So, right now he's playing Super Mario Brothers or something of that nature. I guess we'll play Luigi Mansion 3, whatever the heck that is. But just remember, going to be doing exercises when I do that. Going to be losing weight. I could go out and do those sit-ups, but I don't need to do sit-ups. Thank God sit-ups are now gone from my repertoire. It's just video games from here on out. All right. Heard back from Stephen Smith. So tomorrow on the Watchdog Morning Show, Stephen Smith from West Virginia Can't Wait, former contender for the Democratic nomination, did not get it, but contender for it, is going to be with us to talk about this new campaign they've got started, Replace Joe Manchin. And the website, replacejoemansion.com, apparently will go live today. They're going to try and raise some money and start some efforts to get Manchin replaced. Again, I think it's a fool's errand. I'll tell you that right now. And I'll tell Stephen that when we talk to him tomorrow. I think it's a fool's errand. But it should be interesting. We'll talk about that. So Stephen Smith with us tomorrow on the Watchdog Morning Show. The COVID story and the Afghan stories are going to continue. So every day we'll no doubt be following those things as the next number of days and weeks go by. COVID, God knows how long that's going to go on. So we'll get into all of that tomorrow here on the Watchdog Morning Show. But coming up next, it is Statewide Talk Line with my good friend, Mr. Kirchhoff. Hoppy today will kick things off with Dr. Clay Marsh, the COVID czar in West Virginia. And then he'll be talking, among other guests today, he's got a guy who was anti-vax, refused to get the vaccination, then got COVID. And they're going to talk together on Statewide Talk Line. Hoppy did not tell me whether this guy has changed his mind on vaccinations or not after he got COVID. So it should be interesting. That's coming up today, right after the news, which is next, 10:06, Statewide Talk Line. TV7 News at noon, always, right from the news desk, the anchor desk of WTRF TV. And then the Bill Fabio Variety Show from noon until 3. And, of course, Dave Weekly and Hotline coming up at 3. As for moi, I got to go. I got to get out of here. I got to say sayonara, see you, bye-bye, farewell. But tomorrow, good Lord willing, creeks don't rise, bat phone doesn't ring, and don't get impeached, and don't retire. I don't exercise too much on that video game. My ticker keeps on ticking. And most importantly, Teddy says, it's okay. You can go back to work tomorrow, Granddad. I'll be back tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock, when they go around to the big gig. Are you back with me, Beth?
I'm back for a Wednesday.
We're going to keep on doing it until we get it right.
That could be a long time.
Indeed.
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
The ABC News is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg.
Did I lose you? Did you? Oh, okay. I usually hear the beginning of the news and it went away. So. That's okay. That's all right. It doesn't cause me any problems. I thought maybe something had gone wrong. All right, Stephen Smith tomorrow. That's all I've got. I might bring in Stephen Adams on some of the stuff he talked to the governor about yesterday, but I'm not sure about that. We'll see. And I'll wait till the afternoon to see what develops today, because God knows every day something seems to happen that I need to make sure I have a little space available for. So we'll do that. But Stephen Smith is set for 8 o'clock tomorrow, 8:10 tomorrow. Everything working okay? I always ask that question just out of curiosity. Well, hopefully Audacity stayed up all the way through. It was so frustrating to me yesterday because it was a good show, and I wanted to podcast all of those interviews. I did get Howard Gamble at least up, but Bob Ney we lost Bob, so I don't know what happened there, whether somebody came in or... Mm-hmm. It just stopped. Yeah. Jeez. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I really wanted the Bob Ney piece because I thought Bob was good yesterday. I finally got on doing podcasts last night, but life goes on. It was no big deal. Hopefully today's it took. So we'll see when you get in there. If not, let me know. You gotta be kidding me. God. Okay. It may not let you save if it's load. I don't know. Try it and see what happens. Let me know if there's a problem. Later on, I'll try to remote in and see if I can figure out what's taking up all that space. I had this. Okay. I've got some ideas. I'll have to look and see. All right. Well, hopefully we can save the show, but if not, we'll move on. My guess is the Audacity on there? It's not on the screen. Okay. Yeah, we may not have. Okay. Right, that could be. All right, well, let me know when you know for sure. It's possible that it ran, but it won't save. That's a reasonable guess. But if not, I'll get into I have a haircut here at 11 o'clock, but when I get back from that, I'll remote in and see if I can figure out what's wrong. All right, thanks for your help. I appreciate it. Good show today. I'll talk to you in the morning, if not before. All right, bye.
I'm the Storm Tracker, Darnell Foster. With a look at your local weather forecast for your Tuesday. Times of clouds and sunshine with a few scattered thunderstorms. Daytime highs in the mid-70s. Overnight low down to about 65 degrees. Mostly cloudy with showers through the overnight. Showers on and off through your Wednesday. Otherwise mostly cloudy. Temperatures near 78 degrees. Have a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
Good morning. Welcome to Talkline on the Metro News Radio Network.
Do not attempt to change the station. You are surrounded. We interrupt this program to bring you an emergency news bulletin. Repeat, this is an emergency bulletin. Keep your radio turned on.
Holy smoke. From the studios of the West Virginia Radio Corporation and the Metro News Radio Network, the voice of West Virginia, comes the most powerful radio show in West Virginia. This is Metro News Talk Live with Hoppy Kercheval.
Check set lineup link. Activated Telos telephone. Switch network control from Charleston to Morgantown.
Stand by. Q Hoppy. You're on.
Metro News Talk Line with Hoppy Kercheval is brought to you by